regretted that decision because that song is just the perfect song. It just works. And I recently discovered a second version of it that has more cowbell, and I may change over because you can't have enough cowbell. We all know that. As a lawyer, when did you decide? When did you know you wanted to become a lawyer?
Well, I was lucky. I actually grew up in a family where my dad was a lawyer. My aunt was a lawyer long before most women were lawyers. And my grandfather, who I only knew as a small child, was also a lawyer. So, and I got to say this, I got cousins, nephews, and nieces who are lawyers. It kind of runs in the family. So.
Oh, wow.
And my mother would say I argued from the moment I was born. So,
what would you do if you weren't doing law? What would be another choice for you?
Maybe nonprofit work.
Okay.
Work for a foundation or something like that. And, if I believed in their mission, that would be good to do too, because we have a lot of charities and foundations that are headquartered actually in the Philadelphia region that are doing a great job. Now, if you haven't talked to them, the Freedoms Foundation in Valley Forge is wonderful. Okay. They promote entrepreneurship and literacy, as well as they're host to a Medal of Honor Grove honoring soldiers and sailors who received the Medal of Honor. And they're just a great group, and nobody even knows they exist. They're right outside Valley Forge Park, and they're a national foundation. That's interesting. There's so many things that people are doing to help that people don't even know exist. And people, they have this almost this microwave mentality, I call it, on stuff where you just put the food in a magic box and it heats it. You don't know how it works or what happens. And that's extended out to the way that people currently do so many things, whereas people used to take the food, they'd heat up a pot, they'd go through a process, and they were involved in it, and they interacted with it, Right. They understood how it was coming to be, whatever you were cooking. Right. Now we throw things in things, walk away, and come back when we're done, or we throw children in front of screens, and the screen raises them for a couple hours. We throw our clothes in a machine, and it does it, or whatever, and the whole art of knowing the process is lost. And knowing the history. I think we're in danger of losing our history if we don't teach it better to kids in school. There's no value to it. I get constant people say, well, that happened before I was born. Like, that's an intelligent response to not knowing history. I wasn't at Ford Theater when Lincoln was shot, but I know what happened there. And so let me tell you something. I'm running for office last fall. I'm knocking doors, and I got lots of door knocking stories if we need to fill any time here. Okay, go. I love door knocking stories. I talked to this woman, and I'm talking to her. I forget what we were talking about, maybe school, something like that. She says, "Oh, look at the time. I have to get to Penland Woods," which is a huge park in Lower Gwinnett that I helped save. I got to get to Penland Woods and pick up my son. I said, "Oh, how nice. Is he playing soccer there?" She says, "He is." I said, "It's been almost 25 years since we saved the Penland Woods." She said, "Saved it from what?" And I thought, oh my God, I spent 7 years of my life, and there were 7 lawsuits, and I was a township supervisor. We all got sued personally. It was like a huge deal. But I looked at her and I thought, well, her son's probably 9 or 10. She's probably 35. So she was 10 when this happened, and she probably didn't live here. So, even recent history, local recent history, nobody knows. No, they just expect everything to be there for them. We do Earth Day cleanups with the search and rescue team as part of giving back. When we're not doing an emergency thing, we try and find nice things to do. I love planting trees. I think everybody should plant a tree. And we go do it, and it frustrates me that we're building new swing sets. We're cleaning up the area, and there's people there, and they come up with the children and go, "Are you guys going to be much longer? When's this going to be open?" And I want to say, hey, if you picked up a shovel, it would be open quicker. It'd be open quicker, instead of thinking that we're just the grounds crew working for you, and people don't get that. They don't. And if you're in a service club, I'm in the Rotary, the Ambler Rotary. If you're in a service club for the last 20 or 30 years, service clubs, the Kiwanis, the Rotary, name some other ones, I've been worrying about getting people to be part of it. Because
Chamber of Commerce,
Lions
Club,
the Lions, sure, because people need to give back to their communities, or at least in our generation, people thought we should give back to our communities, and our parents certainly thought that very strongly. But we're not, and I understand. I was a working mom. I had 2 kids while I was practicing law. And my husband's a working dad as an accountant. And I understand you're very busy when your kids are little. But if you don't give back to your community, you and I are going to die off someday, and who's going to pick it up?
See, and the busy has become this cult, this point of pride with people to say they're busy. And I just don't, we all get the same amount of hours in a day, and we have different responsibilities and things pulling us in different directions. I think that what we failed to do is we failed to educate people on the intrinsic value of being involved in those things and how it makes you a more complete human being. People will go and pay money to take some yoga class that involves giant wine glasses or welding or something, but they won't learn about their community, which impacts them every day, and help be part of those decisions. You talked about door knocking stories. Now, some time ago, we stumbled onto this, and I started asking politicians, because a lot of people don't realize, and they think this is an automated process, and there's just these signs on the lawn, but it still is door to door.
It absolutely is door to door. Important.
And I got to ask you, and now that you're free, you can answer this question probably. What percentage of the people whose doors you knocked on came to the door in an inappropriate state of disrobe?
I would say every now and then. Over the time, it was a very small number. But let me tell you, I'm going door knocking during the Kavanaugh hearings. These are nice 2-story, 4-bedroom colonials. I knock on the door, and everybody's got the Kavanaugh hearings on because I can hear the TV. Okay. So I know they got it on. This woman comes to the door, recognizes me, and knows I'm a Republican, and begins to scream at me. And I'm like, I was shocked. I'm trying to find common ground. I happened to notice that her car had a school sticker that I knew to be a Catholic school. My kids had also gone to Catholic schools. So I said to her, do you have children? I'm trying to calm her down. And she's screaming at me, you Republicans, why don't you believe people? And I'm like, that's Congress. I'm in the state house.
Yeah.
We don't even get a chance at this one. We don't pick Supreme Court justices, and we don't vet them either. And, but she was not reasonable. Her husband comes up, and her husband pats her on the shoulder. That does nothing. She's still screaming at me, and pats her on the arm, and he cannot get her to come to grips with it. Finally, he looks at me and he says, I'll vote for you. And I said, thank you very much. And then I left. It was just traumatizing. Okay.
It wasn't his first rodeo.
Yeah. Woo, that was something. But in the same neighborhood, few doors later, woman comes to the door. We're shooting the breeze. She's retired from the medical profession. She was either a doctor or maybe a scientist at one of the pharmaceuticals, which would not be unusual in my area. And she leans towards me. I'm standing on her porch. Her house is on a 1-acre lot. She whispers, I'm voting Republican. Like that. Like there was something shameful about that. I said, well, thank you very much. But that was as shocking to me as the woman who yelled at me for being a Republican. It was crazy that she felt in her neighborhood that she didn't want anybody to know. She didn't have any political signs out. She was just going to go to the polls and vote Republican. It was just a crazy, crazy time.
Yeah, it just is. It's like speaking your heart or making your own free choice is like you're joining a resistance, or something.
Right. It's right. That's exactly how she acted, as if she was covert agent for the French resistance during World War II,
Yeah, blinking at you in code so that, it's okay. And it's scary that she did that. It's scary she felt she had to do that.
It is scary she felt she had to. She should feel like she can express an opinion in her neighborhood. But peer pressure is pretty strong, even on adults. And and it gets back to people not understanding that it might look differently to somebody sitting, a few yards away from you.
Yeah, and people just don't appreciate the differences in the people. It's funny you said every now and then, because we were getting numbers back from door-to-door politicians. Up to 40% of the people coming to the doors were in inappropriate states of disrobe,
Was this for women or men?
Yes.
I think it was a majority of the. I think it was men talking about men coming to the door in disrobe. I think men aren't as bothered by women in disrobe as they are by men in disrobe.
This would be true.
I think that's probably
most of the men I know anyway.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah, they'd probably stand there and talk longer.
That wasn't news. Yeah, that's not news. If a woman comes to the door undressed, that's not news. Okay.
Right.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah. And because I remember asking the one guy, I said, your town, I said, is it boxers or a tighty-whitey community? He said, well, about 50-50. And I found out after meeting my constituents.
But how about this one? Sometimes you'd go to the door and you'd knock and you could see the feet and you knew the TV was across the living room and there was a game on. And you would see the feet there, but the feet did not get up. The feet would yell, honey, someone's at the door.
We had a search not far from here, and we were going door to door to get the re-interview people and see, because somebody always, and I feel this all the time, somebody knows something that they don't think is important, but is when put together with everything else.
Right.
And we're knocking on doors, and people just aren't coming to doors that much, but you can see the feet, you can see the TV. And my assistant chief said, this woman's going to die because of March Madness. Yeah, these people are getting up.
And that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I learned you never go door to door during a Penn State game.
Okay.
Who knew?
Super Bowl.
Yeah, people would actually get mad if you interrupted them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you go, I would think that if you go during sporting events, you run more of a chance of losing a vote than you do of gaining a vote.
Yeah.
Just from somebody getting mad because you interrupted them.
Sometimes you would also hear the mom say, get the door, and some little children would come. And they would open the door and they would look at you. You're a stranger, but you didn't look that scary if you're me, And I would say, is your mom around? Yeah, I'll go get her. Mom! Yeah. Like that. They just turn like their head and yell, Mom! And then mom would come and she was always in the middle of laundry or cooking or something. I would say, I don't want to bother you. I'm Kate Harper. Here's little information about me when you have time. I'm on the ballot.
Right.
And then I'd run out of there because I didn't want to lose her.
Isn't it amazing how answering your door has become such a different thing in a couple generations? I remember when I was growing up and somebody would knock on the door, it was like, oh, come on in,
Right.
And now
we have company, visitors.
Yeah, visitors, I guess. And now when somebody knocks on your door, I do it. I see other people do it where you're mentally racking a shotgun.
Yeah. And sometimes physically, but okay.
Yeah. And everybody in the room looks at each other like, you expect somebody.
There's someone at the door.
And the
or you got automatic garages, so you go in and out 9 months of the year without ever talking to your neighbors.
That drives me nuts. You vanish into the house, and it's like there's a woman that lives down the road from my friend, and I'm convinced that somebody could do something to this woman and just put her hat on and drive in and out of that house, and no one would notice.
Right.
Because
you don't see her up close and personal.
And if you want to meet your neighbors, nothing has you meet your neighbors like a power outage. Everybody wanders out into the darkness like reverse zombies or something.
Wait, do you have power? No. Do you have power? Do you have power? Yeah, you're right about that. I would say also that there's I think people work hard and then they want to go home and retreat.
Yeah.
So they may have a better connection to somebody on the West Coast that they talk to on Facebook than they have with their next door neighbor. I've been lucky. I've always made a point to get along with my neighbors, and I've had very good neighbors. And, that's good. But it would be pretty easy to just, at the end of a day, roll in, close the door, and get in your pajamas.
Well, it's interesting because I find that people, as they've gotten older, it's been reversed. You have generations that are being homeschooled, and then they're going to they work from home, and they're just not getting the exposure. I'm all for those things if you have a mix of